I'm Myra Pawlowski. I'm the Director for America's Partner Training. And with me today is my colleague from Asia Pacific and Japan, Nigel Watson.
Hi.
Not with us today is Kees Pronk, who is the Director for EMEA. But we wanted to make sure that we called out his name as well. Kees just started about 2 weeks ago. And when we cover the material, it will apply to all three of our organizations. Within partner training, I wanted to just give you a little context about training and certification. The training and certification team is part of the global services umbrella that moved under global services around the summertime. And global services include professional services, consulting, managed services, support, and now training and certification. Within our team, we have two main roles. The first is the Partner Enablement Manager, and that person is responsible for the learning and development needs for your organization and working with your L&D leader to identify what is the best training structure for your workforce. The second role is the Partner Trainer, and they're delivering courses across foundational and intermediate plus courses for both business and technical. They're delivering courses to help you achieve areas such as certification, cloud practitioner, and solutions architect are examples. So today, we're going to talk about some trends. There we go. Today, we're going to talk about some trends in training, how organizations are valuing learning, and how AWS partners are reinventing the employee workforce transformation across three pillars: upskill, reskill, and recruit. We'll also talk about the measurement of DSI with a study that we conducted that measures top to bottom line results and benefits for your workforce. We'll also talk about great ways to grow it with new partner training, and then at the end we'll have some Q&A.
So I think it's safe to say that the last couple of years have been incredibly difficult for our customers as a result of the impacts of the pandemic. We've all seen customers who have had their digital strategies accelerated or even completely designed for them as they've coped with the impact of what the pandemic's done to their business. And because of that demand for digital talent, and in particular for cloud talent, we've also seen something of a talent crunch. As we emerge from the other side of the pandemic, we continue to see some of the after effects of what's been going on for the last couple of years. So for instance, we're all aware of the Great Resignation. This is where we see people leaving the tech sector for whatever reason, in much larger numbers than they have before. The second thing that we're seeing a lot of is this notion of quiet quitting. And this is where we see people, they remain employed, but they're not necessarily super engaged with the business. They're doing the bare minimum to keep the lights on. And as a result, productivity starts to sag, and because of that, it's quite hard to drive business outcomes. So what this means is that we are facing a talent crunch at the moment, which really is being exacerbated by the last couple of years of the pandemic. I think, though, that if I was to put a brighter spin on this, I'd say this is a great opportunity for those of you who are AWS partners, and I'm sure most of the room is AWS partners today. AWS partners are the organizations that our customers turn to when they need help with these digital transformations, when they need help with complex technical or business challenges. So you're actually well positioned because you've been building these skills over the course of building your business. You're in a great position to take advantage of the fact that customers are really struggling to find the right resources to fulfill their digital destinies, if you like. But there's a rub. Right? The same impacts that we've seen in the customer community also apply to the partner community. So according to Ruba Borno, who's our global worldwide vice president for channels and alliances, she's been talking with a lot of partners, and one of the common pieces of feedback that she hears from partners that the number one barrier to growth is the availability of cloud talent. Right? So we can see that in context, this is a problem that actually impacts us all. So we have to recognize that this is a challenge that we can't just hire our way out of. You know, there aren't enough people in the industry for us to hire. And we're all faced with this challenge, even Amazon. So we can't find enough people to go after in the industry. So that means that we have to get creative about how we attract and retain talent. We need to think about how do we create the right environment of continual learning and continual enablement within our organizations to ensure that the skills that we do have on staff remain evergreen and remain constantly updated as the cloud platforms evolve beneath the consultants in your organizations. And I think we also need to put a much greater degree of emphasis on upskilling and reskilling. That's taking existing people across your broader practices and bringing them up to date with in-demand digital and cloud enablement and technologies. So what's new is how leaders in the cloud industry are thinking about how they deepen their pool of cloud talent and how they're evolving their cloud development strategy across their organizations. And one of the things we'll hear about today is how AWS Partners, I think, are at the forefront of re-envisioning and reimagining what a cloud development strategy looks like for their talent. And they're doing it in a way that both optimizes the outcomes for their customers, but also helps retain and keep happy employees, and also builds competitive advantage in the market. So we'll talk more about that today.
So earlier this year, AWS commissioned Forrester Consulting to conduct a total economic impact study examining the ROI realized by several of our partners, SIs and GSIs in particular, who participate in AWS training. There are some huge impact results that I wanted to share. Number one, a 229% ROI. ROI is calculated as net benefits divided by costs, and some of those benefits include gross profit from improved win rates, new offerings and capabilities, upselling and cross-selling new products, faster project delivery, and upskilling versus new hires. So 229% ROI, very nice number there. Less than 6 months payback. So this is the break even where the net benefits equal the cost or investment of training. A 7% increase in average contract value. So by having employees that understand customers' business needs and how to solve them with AWS solutions, partners were able to increase their upselling, cross-sell of products and services, as well as training helped to increase project rates, reflecting a higher quality of work. A 17% per year improvement in win rates related to projects and deals. So having trained and certified sellers allowed for better prospecting conversations, and having certified and technical resources improves customers' perceptions of partners' capabilities. It also helps with customers as they're delivering or working through partners' capabilities in RFPs. A 20% faster project delivery. By having more skilled resources, the more efficient a project delivery team will be to complete projects, and that results in time savings that can be reallocated to other revenue-generating projects. And finally, 30% of job vacancies were filled by upskilling internal employees versus externally hiring, so saving time and effort by not hiring from the outside. Now, for partners to meet customer demands for cloud transformation, you can really build a strong team with 3 focus areas. Number 1, upskilling. This is improving the skills of your current staff. You're able to increase efficiency, which leads to cost savings. Number 2, reskilling. So this is giving the employees the opportunity to grow within the company, but into new positions, improving employee retention, and employees really want to be able to work somewhere where they can see themselves grow. And the last is around recruiting. This is involving hiring externally, but it's really about developing relationships with new pools of talent, new graduates, and other programs. This can help to reduce the strain on your hiring pipeline, taps into the specific skills that you need to add to your teams.
All right, so let's look at some examples of upskilling, reskilling, and recruit. A great example around upskill is a partner we work with called Perfios. This is an Indian partner. They focus on software for the financial services industry. They worked with the partner training team to build what's called a partner learning needs assessment. This is where we go and look at the team that you have and identify opportunities to fill in gaps in knowledge or to upskill individuals on your team. As a result of the learning needs assessment, we identified that their developers would really benefit from some deeper training. So we saw an opportunity to develop more than 60% of their workforce, so more than 500 developers, on developing on AWS. As a result of the training, actually the impact was pretty stunning. So they were able to cut their development time by more than 50%, so immediate productivity gains from that. They also reduced the time required to build platform reliability, or they improved their platform reliability and reduced their maintenance costs by between 40 to 50%. So again, some really extreme benefits by making a smart investment in the productivity of people that were existing developers within their practice. They're already really great at what they do, but by filling in some of the last mile gaps around how do you effectively develop for AWS, they were able to hit some really extreme and positive outcomes from that investment. In terms of reskill, I think Rackspace has been doing some really interesting things. This is a concerted program that Rackspace put together called Are You Awesome? Which was really focused on both upskilling and reskilling. And there are two components to Are You Awesome? The first component is a program called Technical Onboarding Program, or TOPS. And what they did with TOPS was that they recognized that across, Rackspace is a large organization, and across their organization, there's a huge diversity of skills that they can tap into, but not all of those skills are aligned with the in-demand domains around digital and cloud. And so what they did was they offered people in those other skilled areas an opportunity to upskill and onboard into one of their cloud practices. Along the way, they provided a collection of training to bring them up to speed in terms of cloud fluency, and that had the impact of both reusing existing resources across their practices that had specialty skills that were in other domains, and also helped to increase staff retention because now staff were being refreshed and offered a new set of skills that they could bring to the table that were really relevant to Rackspace and help them grow their business. The second program that they had in place is really a revitalized technical career track. And this was, again, a conscious recognition by Rackspace that it should be possible for a technologist to build seniority and role without necessarily taking on a managerial role. Not every technologist wants to be a manager, but in our industry, we tend to have this idea that if you get more senior, you become a manager. That doesn't work for everyone. And so what Rackspace did was they built a technical career track that took a technologist from basically a starting point all the way up to being a CTO, if they desired. And they celebrated the idea that you could become more senior as a technologist. As part of this, they also built the profile of those individuals so that more business units across Rackspace were aware of the deep domain expertise from those individuals. So they built a platform so that they could be recognized. And they also built a much stronger retention because now all of a sudden you had a pathway for a technologist to increase in seniority without necessarily taking on a management burden that they don't necessarily want. So it was a really impressive piece of work, and it's been drawing some great benefits for Rackspace as a business. But to learn more about that, let's hear from Srini Kaushik, who is the CTO for Rackspace, and his team as they talk about these programs.
At Rackspace, we are a customer-first, cloud-first company. When you just get to the cloud, you're barely surviving on it. But we want you to actually thrive on the cloud. Be successful advising customers. You have to have both the breadth of expertise and the depth. What AWS does, they give us the roadmap to be able to build this really good workforce that has both the breadth and the depth. We've had growth in the high teens for every year for the last 4 years. A trained workforce within the United States is not growing at that. But the reason why we're able to do that is because we're able to do the training that allows us.
The Are You Awesome program is the amazing program Rackspace AWS. It's really a robust program. Not only generates excitement, but it really just allows the Rackers to have fun, right, and build that brand loyalty.
Year to date, had 7, about 500 obtained funds.
We run a program called the Technical Onboarding Program, right, TOP. We take a cohort of existing Rackers, probably don't have the most current skills, take them from their day jobs, actually put them through a 90-day program. And at the end of it, they're coming out like AWS certified, like at a professional level, with the right types of skills. Most of these top cohorts have got anywhere from 30 to 60 people in it, and we run 4 or 5 of these cohorts every year, right? And that allows us to kind of get a lot of upskill.
Through the programs, we've been able to get Rackers a huge leap in their career. This is something that would take normally years to accomplish. We're doing it in 90 days. So it is really this massive. We had close to 2,000 sign up. It's still building. We still have people joining us. We still have Rackers getting certification. Yay.
The biggest benefit we get is an evergreen workforce. We're one of the very few companies that has a technical career track that goes all the way up to this SVP level in the company. So investing in employees and making sure that their skills are current, they must. It is about giving people an opportunity to come to Rackspace because they get to grow their career.
If you move the business aspect away from everything, to think about not only the Rackers' lives that you're enhancing, but our customers and clients by offering them the best solutions and the best support for where they're trying to go.
AWS training and certification really helped us kind of hone our strategy, very specific areas where we need to build the specialization and the breadth. They've been an amazing partner.
All right, so sorry about some of the audio issues. I'm not sure if it was the same for you, but there was a few dropouts in there, but I hope you got the gist. Rackspace have been thinking really strategically about how they not only how they reskill people, but how they grow people in place and make sure that they're recognizing and rewarding seniority for technologists, but also identifying and nurturing talent across their business. The third thing that Rackspace, previous slide, I think.
Oh, that was it.
One thing. Go back.
That was it.
Oh, okay, actually. All right. So there's one other thing that Rackspace are doing, which was, and I actually missed the slide when it was up before, but I wanted to talk about it because it's important. Rackspace also have a recruit motion, which is really interesting. So Rackspace have been, like a lot of us, have been in this environment of scarcity when it comes to hiring interns, because we all go after the same targets. We're always going after the STEM students, science, technology, engineering, maths, particularly computer science and engineering. And the problem with that is that in certain markets, those graduates are actually quite rare, and they're also quite hotly contested. And one of the things I really like about Rackspace's recruit strategy is that they're super focused on expanding the scope of where they hire. So they actually go out and hire from non-traditional graduates. So they'll look at maybe people from business schools or hire somebody with an economics background, bring them in. And as part of their attract strategy, they also ensure that the candidates, the potential candidates, are aware that as part of joining Rackspace, this technology company coming from this non-traditional technology background, that Rackspace will actually invest in the training and the enablement to ensure that they come up to speed and become fluent on cloud. And I think that it's something that I think we should think more about in terms of not just going after the normal STEM graduates, but looking at non-traditional sources where we know that there's a lot of cognitive ability, and we know people have great capabilities and the ability to think, and we can bring them in and we can skill them up on cloud. We have to get more creative in terms of the types of people that we bring into the organization. So moving along, thinking about the investments that you make in training and thinking about your workforce transformation strategy, one of the things that you really need to keep in sharp focus is what is the actual impact of the investment that we're making in training? And it's important to do this because if we're to create a culture of continual learning and enablement, this means that we're expecting the business to continue to invest in that enablement. And in order to make that investment continue to happen, we need to have a business case. Right? And so the way we create the business case is we measure the impact and we use that to quantify the value of this training back to the business to support our aspirations to keep our talent fresh. If you take a look at the Forrester TEI study that Myra talked about before, in that study, the Forrester team actually break down the impact of training and certification and training enabling their team along 2 lines. The first line is qualitative. And these are things that are actually quite hard to measure. They're things you normally go and survey for, but you know that they have an impact on your organization and your customers. So this could be things like customer satisfaction. How happy was the customer with the work that your team did for them? Another thing is, what is the impact on your brand value or your brand perception in the marketplace? Or how happy are your employees? How satisfied are they on your work? These aren't things that there are any hard metrics on. Actually, you literally just have to survey and ask questions. That's typically how you collect this sort of data. But they're important because it's the feeling of how you train and what it means for your business. And for me, what was interesting about reading the Forrester study was the amount of really positive anecdotal evidence that, we surveyed a number of partners as part of the study. And the study itself is peppered with these statements from partners talking about the qualitative value of training and enablement on driving great outcomes for their team. The second line of impact that Forrester identified were the quantitative impacts, things that are much easier to measure. So for instance, how much did your pipeline grow? How many deals did you close? What was the reduction in time for delivering customer workloads? How effective was that work? And how many employees do you retain? These are all much harder metrics. I don't mean harder metrics to gather. I mean that they're hard numbers that are readily available as an output from your business operations. And you need to keep these in mind because these are the things that are actually going to help drive a really strong business case as you think about your workforce transformation strategy. So when you set out to create this, you need to identify which of these things that we want to drive and how do we measure it and ensure we're raising it back up to the business. So an organization that's done this really well is LTI. This is another Indian partner actually, and they operate, they're based in India, but actually operate in North America and EMEA, and they specialize in a number of areas, including infrastructure as well as SAP workloads, and they're really good at it. But one of the things that we identified with LTI was we engaged in a structured learning program with them to, again, identify some of the gaps in terms of their ability to deliver across some of those workloads. And we executed a fairly concerted program to fill in those gaps with training. And what was interesting was how they actually measured the impact afterwards. So LTI were able to show, almost immediately following the training, they're able to show a pipeline increase of 102% quarter over quarter, right? So a really immediate and instant pipeline increase simply because we'd enabled some of their pre-sales solution architects and pre-sales team on better ways to pitch and get deals closed with customers, like really simple optimization, but it really helped. They also achieved two new competencies, so they gained energy and IoT as a result of doing some specialist training and some work on that front. And they achieved 2 new service delivery designations, EMR and DMS, again as a result of some really focused training and work that they did as a result of that. The other thing that LTI did was that they recognized that they're in an environment where actually their utilization is very high. And so as part of our training plan with them, we actually pivoted to a lot more digital training as well to free up some time for their consultants to do the training, maybe out of hours, at the same time as delivering for customer workloads. And the final impact for LTI of the work that they did with us was that they noticed an increase in staff retention as a result of the investment that LTI were making in those staff. And this is something that was really important because I know that some of you really suffer from this, and in India it's not uncommon to be facing rates of 25% attrition because people are being hired away because of the skills gap, right? So LTI were able to very much reduce the attrition as a result of consciously investing in people and their practices.
All right, so let's now pivot to some of the offerings that we have. Every year, we're working with our partners to ensure that we have impactful training content, taking your feedback and incorporating that into the curriculum. So I'm going to talk about some new courses that we're launching. I'll also talk about some of the new learning paths that we're providing, as well as giving you some additional resources through Skill Builder. Each year, this year, we launched 11 new or updated partner courses this year. The domains include architecting, data analytics, foundational essentials, and security. I'll highlight a couple of these. Number 1, the SAP Certification. This is an opportunity for your staff to be validated with their skills in managing and deploying SAP workloads on AWS. The second one is important for our GovCloud partners. GovCloud Essentials, this is a new course that's coming out in December, or next week actually. It's a 2-hour interactive digital badge course targeted at our sales professionals, and it walks you through the basics of AWS GovCloud infrastructure and services. And the other one that's very popular is the AWS Sales Accreditation for Business. This is a new course that focuses on best practices for selling with AWS, giving you insights into the leading drivers for customer cloud adoption, how to best position the business value of AWS, how to handle customer objections, as well as co-selling with our AWS team. Next, our learning paths. Our learning paths pull together training content based on a particular role or solution. It includes organized content from foundational as well as advanced courses, and it's a mix of both digital courses as well as self-paced labs. And we have plans for both our services as well as our software partners. These learning plans also include ramp-up guides. It provides a roadmap for tracking learning progress through completion. And then AWS Skill Builder, which you'll hear about more in a moment, it now provides additional learning paths for certification. We have 24 foundational and advanced levels for all digital learning paths aligned to each certification. And these can be browsed by specialty or by role such as cloud practitioner, solutions architect, developer, SysOps admin. And some of the more popular ones by competency are data analytics, machine learning, and security.
So one of the things that I think is really clear is that we have to meet learners where they are, right? So we need to give them a relevant learning experience that works for them regardless of their level of experience, their geography, their industry, or their preferred way of learning. And we know that not all learners are the same. Some learners like heaps of hands-on labs. So they want to go in, they want to practice the skills that they've learned, they want to get into a sandbox environment, turn the dials, push the buttons and pull the levers to practice what they've learned in terms of manipulating the AWS infrastructure. Other learners are looking for a more curated experience, and we often see this in role-based learning where somebody wants a set of waypoints that will take them from A to B when it comes to learning around a particular role and become fluent in that role. And still more learners, especially advanced learners, are just looking a way to accelerate their readiness to complete, say, a pro or a specialty exam. We see that a lot with people just looking for exam prep. We surveyed our partner community earlier this year and the results about the delivery style that they preferred. And the results were actually really interesting. 40% of the learners that we surveyed said that they preferred a virtual, instructor-led training experience that was self-paced. Right? What they mean is they want a classroom experience, but they want the ability to time shift it so they're not doing it at the same time as it's been scheduled as everyone else is doing it. They want the ability to pause it, to rewind it, to fast forward, to jump around within the training. Okay, 40% wanted that. 30% were quite happy with virtual instructor-led training. Okay, so the way that we typically do it is, we'll schedule a WebEx, everybody turns up, and you're learning with 50 or 60 other people. 20% were looking for a pure digital option, and only 10% were looking for in-classroom physical instructor-led training. So only 10% of the learners that we surveyed were actually interested in going somewhere physically and learning. When you think about that, that's actually not that unusual, because I know that because of the utilization rates, which in many parts of the world are historically high at the moment because of the lack of talent, it's really hard to take a consultant off the line of business and actually send them to a course for a day or 3 days, right? That just doesn't work in a lot of cases. And so what this means and what we're seeing and hearing from our partners is that we need to make this pivot to digital, right? So all of the options that we talked about, the majority of them are kind of virtual and digital type experiences. This is where AWS Skill Builder comes in. We launched Skill Builder as our digital enablement platform in July this year to address exactly this need from our partners. But to hear more about this, we have another video.
We believe learning about the cloud should be tailored, flexible, and engaging. and AWS Skill Builder can help. Skill Builder offers curated learning plans and over 500 digital courses across more than 30 AWS solutions to help you build the skills you need when and where it's convenient for you. Prefer to learn by doing? Upgrade to an AWS Skill Builder individual subscription. Unique training experiences to help you gain real-world practical experience. Develop role-specific skills with AWS Cloud Quest. This game-based training offers unique assignments for roles like solutions architect, serverless developer, and machine learning specialist. Help you learn and apply in-demand cloud skills. If you like building with step-by-step guidance, self-paced AWS Builder Labs are for you. Build solutions in a live AWS sandbox environment, instructions to help you along the way. Or use your AWS skills to tackle open-ended challenges in an AWS Jam journey. Only clues to guide you, you'll solve real-world problems to a specific. Skill Builder subscriptions also include exam prep courses and AWS Certification official practices. By the expert for success. If you're a team leader, consider a team subscription. Help your colleagues learn and build together. Skill Builder team subscriptions, everything mentioned, plus AWS Jam, which gives your team a way to solve challenges together. For a team subscription, you can assign training, built-in reports to highlight progress, completion rates, and more. Whether you take advantage of free training and learning plans, or upgrade to an individual or team subscription, AWS Skill Builder provides training from the experts at AWS to help you do it all.
All right, so did you just get every third word in that? Was the audio really bad? It's hard to hear from up here. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay, not ideal. But basically, hopefully you get the idea. AWS Skill Builder is a digital platform for learning, and it's for AWS and by AWS. So it's pure AWS content. It's not designed to replace, you may be using some other digital platforms which are multi-cloud. That's fine. This is not designed to replace it. It's designed to provide a centralized place for us to deliver our training and what we deliver to our customers and our partners. Skill Builder is available in 3 flavors. The first flavor is the free subscription. So today you can go and enroll in Skill Builder and you get access, you don't have to pay any money, you just enroll. You get access to over 500 digital training courses and learning plans. You get access to AWS Cloud Quest, and you get access to some exam prep. So this is a great way to become acquainted with Skill Builder. Now, if you're a partner and you sign in with your APN credentials, you actually get access to the entire catalog of Amazon partner content. So all of our specialty training for partners, all of the material, we only share it with partners, not with customers. You can get access to that simply by signing into Skill Builder with your APN credentials, so it's a handy hint. If you opt to go to an individual paid subscription, the main thing that you gain from that is you get some additional features in terms of jams and cloud quests, but the main thing you gain is access to AWS Builder Labs. So all of the labs that we have, they're actually published into Skill Builder, and for those of you who are hand-on or people on your team who are hands-on and who want to do labs in a sandboxed environment, they're all available as part of the individual subscription, so it's actually pretty good value. And then if you've got a team of more than 50 people and you're looking for more of an industrial strength learning environment, then the team subscription is the one to look at. What team subscription provides you is, in addition to all of the features of the individual subscription, more of the same, but also the ability to manage enrollment in courses and track progress. So you can, as an admin, you can manage the experience of your users and the progress of your users through Team Builder's team subscription. So that's for for situations where you have more than 50 people. The other thing that team subscription gives you is the ability to do single sign-on to your own directory. So you can sign on to, if you opt for single sign-on and set it up, you can then sign into Skill Builder using your own corporate credentials instead of credentials that have been created elsewhere, which again is really useful.
And just as a show of hands, how many people are aware of Skill Builder or have, okay, so a few of you.
Okay.
And how many of you have the individual subscription? Anyone? All of you are on the free? Anybody on the team subscription? Okay, all right.
Okay.
Good to know.
Yeah, it's pretty new, right? And I think one of the things that we haven't really, I think particularly with the partner community, we haven't really begun to look at how do we structure Skill Builder into learning plans, for instance. We're doing this a lot more now, but it's a thing that I actually believe that, especially given the need to time shift training because everybody's so busy, Skill Builder gives us a way to do that. So my belief is that for anything that's foundational, like CPE, for instance, or the accreditation programs, Skill Builder is a much better experience for your learners because they can do it at a self-paced rate, and they can do it completely 100% digital, which is a real step forward. All right, so how do you get started? The first thing is you should scan this QR code, which, if the QR code gods are kind, will lead you to a link where you can download the Forrester Total Economic Impact Study. It's a good read. I encourage you to take a look at it and look at what the impacts are of starting a program around transforming your cloud enablement strategy with partner training. The first thing that you should do following that is you should think about building your case, right? If this is something that you need to invest in, then you need to build a case. So work with our team, with my team, with Myra's team, with Case's team to identify who is the right partner enablement manager or the right partner enablement rep to help you build a learning plan or a structured learning plan to meet your aspirations in terms of skilling and look at how do you build the case from that point. The second thing is definitely consider modernising your training strategy. You know, the surveys that we've been doing show that partner learners need a much more digitally focused way of learning. This idea of having to turn up at the same time or attend actual physical classroom sessions, I think that's rapidly beginning to change to much more digitally focused. So build that into your strategy. Definitely take a look at Skill Builder. You can actually do a lot with Skill Builder without necessarily having to pay a cent, right? Especially if you're partners, being able to get access to that partner content. So it's highly worth your time and energy to go and have a look at it and think about how you roll this into your digital strategy as you enable your people. And then the third thing is make sure that you think about the outcomes that you're trying to achieve as part of your enablement strategy, because this needs to be sustainable. And to be sustainable, it requires a business case that encourages the business to keep spending money on development. Like, we all know it's important, but it's one thing to just say anecdotally it's important, but it's another thing to say that, you know, following training, we saw an increase in pipeline generated from our pre-sales team of 102%. Or we see the number of deals being closed going up. Or we see the time that it takes to complete a project go down because of the productivity increases. So these are all solid things that you can take to the business, and you need to start with these objectives in mind in order to build that business case effectively. So with that, that brings us to the end of the session. Thank you so much for coming to the far western spiral arm of the galaxy, out to the corner of the reInvent universe. We really appreciate the time that you've spent coming down and hearing from Myra and myself. We appreciate the work that you do in the partner community. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of reInvent.